Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Greetings, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever Force of Will live vodcast. For all your questions and answers, it's office hours. Joined, as always, by myself, because of course I'm joined by myself, Jeremy Franklin, and I am joined tonight by Paul Reisman.
Yeah. God.
Mike Rance. Mike Rance. I'm losing control already. And Tommy Rourke.
Help me.
This is my life, Tommy. This is my life. Welcome to it.
Yo, we vibing for it. We vibing.
I do just want to say thank you all so much for being here. We're very excited to talk about all kinds of stuff tonight. Particularly going to be talking about kind of remembering. We're going to be talking about community, right? The vibe of the community. That's a kind of in terms of what it's been like in the past, how it's kind of had an influence in the past as opposed to what it's been now, because it certainly has felt different over the span of the past year, and I definitely feel like it's stabilized into something worth talking about. And going to be sharing all that kind of stuff, and also just sharing good stories and hearing from you guys with stories you have to see or share. We'd love to see that from the chat. If you are in the chat and want to consider supporting us, if you're not already, consider clicking that join button down below. Easiest way to support the channel financially. And we are currently 3 members away from unlocking that tiny violet emote that you see in the bottom corner. Would really like to unlock it tonight. I have it ready to go to be able to put it in. We could even get it going by the end of tonight, so consider supporting us. Regardless, though, we hope you enjoy being here, and we're glad to have you be part of the community, especially if you're coming to us from TikTok. We know that we've been kind of hitting some people there, or if you're a Magic player getting into the game from our recent Magic to Gathering to Force the Will video. Happy to have you here. That being said, stick around at some point in time, because thanks to good old Tommy Rourke, we're going to be giving away some Uber limit break tokens, which Ruler School exclusive Uber limit break tokens,
nice.
which are super sick. So,
Tommy, what is the process on making those, by the way?
Yeah.
The process for me, well, first I would always start with the art, whether I go to the artwork database, which I'll provide in the comments after this, or if I wanted to make something up, and I would go into MSE, and there is a Force of Will template, and I would just drag the art into the template, and then if I need to do any editing, I'd have my friend, his name is Raven Raver. I'll also link their Instagram. Please give them a shout out. They did great work on these.
Yeah, they did.
I can't edit these to save my soul, and they spent so long working on these. I'm so proud how they came out.
These are absolutely sick.
These are gorgeous. Some of mine haven't come in the mail yet because I want to show those off real bad.
Jeremy has paws, so Jeremy will show them off twice.
There we go.
Unless he gives his paws away, then. Wah, wah.
And 1 for me, and 3 for the community.
And then, and then I just go to my printing company, and I just put in the images and find out how many I want, if I want them in a box or whatever, and they just print them and send them.
That's awesome.
Nice. Sick.
That is awesome. These are very, very, very cool. You also made us the neat card, which we will be doing a giveaway for when we hit that 100 member goal. So maybe we can do 2 giveaways tonight. Who knows?
That'd be pretty neat.
That'd be pretty neat. Hey-o.
Oh, hey.
So,
Hey-o.
See what you did there.
See what you did there. So
I get it.
I do want to talk about this idea of the community vibe, because I think it's important to learn from the past, and also see how things are different now to be able to look to the future in terms of what should be done or what things that are excited about. So I kind of want to take it back to, I'll have each of you kind of share your thoughts about when you got into Force of Will. Give us a kind of a timeline of that, and in your mind, what would you say was the predominant approach that the community had to the game, and what was the prominent voice of the community in terms of like style vibe as like what they saw was important or like how the game was discussed from your perspective. Tommy, as our guest, I actually would like you to join us and go first. So if you want to share your thoughts with us.
Oh, put me on the spot. Okay. Well, I came in at the end of Grim Cluster, and then with the starter deck for the Melgus Faria starter deck. So I had access to Levitain, and I had access to Baja Blast and all that jazz. And when I first started, when me and my buddies were all testing or whatever, I think the most important thing. See, this is kind of hard because I'm kind of biased and it's kind of been forever. But I think being able to interact with my opponent in a fair way, but then also having the same done to me was probably the best thing I looked forward to. Didn't matter what kind of deck you played, as long as like I had a way around it somehow. I think that was like the key thing. And I think it was a lot slower back in the day, so everyone had more time to like develop and like figure out a strategy or like work on the fly. I think that was my most important thing coming out of it.
Cool. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty much the same boat as Tommy. I started right at the end of Grim Cluster, right about when I actually started after SKL had already come out, so I didn't actually have to deal with Baja Blast because everybody and their mother was playing Blazer at that point. But but I remember during that time, it was like I didn't really have a big grasp on the community until I started looking at like a couple of name drops that I would just kind of want to give from like tournament reports were coming from guys like 6ages Gaming back in the day. We had a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh players who were like big into the tournament scene back then. Names like like M. Cole 40. I remember he had a voice in the Force of Will. Robert Boyajian had the Resonatorless Vlad deck back in the day, which was just all removal and burn.
Battle Tavern was a big one.
Battle Tavern was a big one. Yep, there's a lot of like there was more focus on I'm gonna say celebrity players back in the earlier days of the game, which I think was a cool thing to have. But again, it skewed the game in a much more competitive direction. It didn't really leave a lot of room for casual people to figure things out because they would listen to the voices that were the loudest, which were the ones of the Yu-Gi-Oh players coming to Force Will, because Yu-Gi-Oh players will always have the loudest voice in any room, and that's a fact. But
science.
Science. But as the game's gone on, we've had less and less like celebrity players. We've had less and less like very overly critical players pushing their thoughts out on like a big public platform. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that, the company doesn't listen too heavily to like loud, obnoxious voices complaining about things, which, is fine. It's a cultural difference between US and Japanese companies. That's full on fact, just in terms of business practice. But we've also seen lesser profile players and, just people who've been casual popping up in GP scenes, like this idiot somehow making it to top cuts and getting an invite. How does that happen?
Not once, but twice.
Twice.
One
yeah.
with Lich.
Once with Lich. I was the Lich poster of that tournament, but I don't know. You're kind of getting that kind of appeal. You're getting like you're not getting the teams that are constantly getting to the top and putting their mark on things. It's just like individual players that aren't really on any team, players that don't really play competitively until tournament scene comes up, and otherwise they just kind of play casually or play other games, and just I don't know. It feels like it feels like there's a lot less pressure to be the best in the game right now, because it's easy. It's somewhat easy to figure out what decks are the best. It's not the easiest to be the best pilot of that deck.
That's pretty true. That's pretty true. I'll talk about some points when it gets around to me. Paul, you came in later. Be curious to, and you've always been by my side in the content creation, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I've been pretty much like right with the both of you, Tommy and Mike. I came into the game right around the time you did. MOA had come out, SKL was about to come out, and I bought the Faria Melgus structure deck. I think I bought 2 of them because you got 2 Levitins in one, so you have to buy a second one. Is that right?
Yeah.
I forget the everything.
It was the Regalia and Gwyn and Lance that you only got 2 copies of. Same with Percy and Gawain. You only got 2s.
So Jeremy said you need to buy 2 of this because this deck is going to be like super relevant to the meta going forward. Super right, by the way. He was very much right.
Correct.
We started playing a convention called Shudokan. I started playing then, and he set me up with pretty much everything I needed to do. It was my wedding present from him to just get me back into the game. And right away, I was like, I don't know how to Force of Will because Yu-Gi-Oh'd too long and Kaijudo'd for too long. So how do? Um, so it was mostly just for me. It was like getting my head around the elements of deck building and how gameplay worked. And that's when I would just go on Tavern all the time, Tavern TCG, and just check out that stuff. I played a lot of Red Arla back then.
Bloody Arla.
Bloody Arla.
Yeah, so
Oh,
like
yeah, it
it
was so
definitely
much
there was
fun,
like oh, so fun. I love that deck so much. It just felt so controlling, so mid-rangey. And that was pretty much like the deck, right? That and Blazer Knights and stuff like that. And so I really did like the sort of like interactions that the game would have. And I feel like the game back then was much more mid-range control-y in a way that felt like really solid. I haven't really felt that way in the game ever since. But as far as like the public discourse, it was very much. I agree with Mike. There was a lot of like, oh, these are the people in the community that like you need to like pay attention to them. Like as a new player coming in, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta watch these people. And then Tavern died. I was like, okay. Well, now what do we do? There was like Grinning Remnant and some other folks around trying to cut their teeth. And yeah, as the game has gone on, it feels less and less like cut out. So like there's everything just feels casual, right? There are some big names in the game, but they're not pushing content or like pushing like popularity nearly as much. The game really does feel more like a game more than like a popularity contest or any other sort of like social thing. It just feels like, hey, we're just gonna get together and play games. And I think the pandemic has something to do with that too.
Yeah.
I think Ruler School has really been the only. Yeah, you'll get to that. So I think Ruler School has been like the one channel that's like really been posting stuff pretty regularly, just because we had workarounds for a little bit there.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you speak to about the stuff that all 3 of you have spoken to is very, very accurate to beginning Force of Will, and I think it's also some of the reasons why Force of Will has had the dips that it's had, because I think when Force of Will first came out, it was seen as a potential giant that competitively could take on the big 3 in terms of a competitive environment. And so when you have the initial thought of the community being, this is going to be a competitive game that gives me that can take on the likes of the big 3, the minds that get attracted to it and the way that the community views the game is at the competition level. All eyes are on competition. All eyes are on what are the top tiers. All eyes are on what is the state of competitive play. And that's not inherently bad, because there are games that are successful when they're in that mind. It lends itself to some natural toxicity, which is what we saw in early game, and very quickly bred some of the really big loudmouths trying to complain to the company, to a Japanese company, without any form of honor or respect to them. It's also why we saw burnout from community pillars, because as someone who, this is not to toot my own horn in any way, purely because of my like things that I have done, things that I have been involved in from the beginning of the game, I can fairly say I am the last remaining original pillar. Especially in the United States community. Like, everyone else is gone. Like, those people had fallouts because of their even driving force of how they saw the need for the community to be driven by a competitive level. And when issues with the game at the competitive level, those were the loudest voices that caused problems. in terms of people's trust in the game, in terms of how people approach the game or their enjoyment of the game. And that has led to our dips, right? I think over time, and I think that persisted all the way through the end of New Valhalla Cluster. Like, I think to a point, as much as people like us at Ruler School were trying to fight that urge or fight that trend, I think the community as a whole still had that competitive focus all the way through the end of New Valhalla Cluster. I think Alice Origins Cluster hit, and we saw a shift. Particularly, I mean, and the pandemic certainly assisted that, I think, because of the nature of suddenly there were no more competitions. There was no purpose of having the best tier 1 deck. There was no like reward for that, because okay, no events, right? And so I think what that did was that weeded out, I think, some of the few last vestiges of the loud negative voices, and the quiet voice of, like Paul said, that this is a game and a community rather than a celebrity status approach or all about the victories. That voice has started to become louder, and I think that newer players are coming to the game for that voice, not the competitive voice. And that to me is a big change. I think people are coming to Force the Will because it feels like a fun game, not a game where they can make a name for themselves. We've seen that in the Ruler School Discord for sure, because that thing has exploded in terms of membership in the past, like, 3 months. We've seen it in the global group. We've seen it in video discussions. The competitive players are still there. I think the competitive players have mellowed out because they've also, I think, let go of some of their own self-imposed responsibility. Like, competitive players just can be competitive. It's not like the community is looking to them to guide the way. And I think the competitive players have started accepting that, which I think is also very good. And the community is just enjoying the game. I've said this line a couple of times, and it's really stuck with me since when we did that Magic Player to Foul player video, that we're a community that competes. We're a community that competes rather than a competing community. And I think that speaks to what Paul said in terms of this is a game first, and I think people are playing to enjoy the game. Because, like, at the competitive side, I think there's been so many players that have been new saying, like, yeah, I know that this is the best deck, but I'm just going to play what I have, and I'm going to have fun with time with it. Like, if you were to come to me in the Baja Blast era, or the Reflector Rain era, or the Prisia era, you would not find a player who is just like, I know this is the best deck, but I don't really care. I'm just going to play what I want. Not a thing.
No.
They'd be complaining that they couldn't play the deck that they wanted. But now that's gone. Like,
they couldn't beat the meta.
Right, that they couldn't solve it. It's just like, nah, I'm just having a good time. And that's the predominant voice. And I think that is a really, really good thing. Rustin saying here, it's so bad to say, but yeah, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I wouldn't have started hanging out with certain friends as often. I wouldn't have gotten more people more knowledgeable at the game. Right. Because, like, without the competition, without the focus on competition, you're encouraged to tell people about FOW from an enjoyment perspective, not from a competition perspective. And this game is fun. Like, this game is a blast to play. And so I'd be curious to see, being someone who's plugged into so many communities, I've seen so much of this, but, like, I'd be curious to see the three of you guys' thoughts in terms of, or your similarities, or maybe some things that you think are maybe causes of it, or, like, possible things to come out of it in this shift of viewpoint that we're having from this competitive personality game to just an enjoyment game perspective. Anybody?
Yeah,
Floor open.
one thing I definitely want to go over, because I really like the fact that obviously we're talking about people playing in casually and just picking up cards for casual games, but also I want to give another major contention point is the fact that this year we're having these online GPs, which are contributing a lot to casual players saying, hey, I've got all these cards, I don't have to travel for this, I just have to throw my entry in, get free promos, and then who knows, maybe I'll hit something. And that's great. And we've seen such creative decks come out of it. Cal's Patreon tournament over the weekend, I got word about it from Scott, who was in it, and he was saying that, it was a pretty diverse thing. I think they had 3 different rulers in the top 4, something along those lines.
Nice.
And it was just like, it's so nice to see that just like people are just playing, like they're experimenting with decks. They want to find what the best decks are. We just got 2 sets, so this is going to be like prime time for competitive players to kind of like do their own independent research. But casual players are just going to look at the set, be like, that card seems cool. I'm going to play Dracula Mikage. And
Beanstalk Violet.
Beanstalk Violet, baby. I still want to make a remote control Beast Violet beatdown deck that just ruins my opponent's face. And you know what? I can try it. Is it going to win a tournament? Hell no. But is it going to be fun? Hell yeah. And that's kind of like...
I think the same thing. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Because right now at this point in the game, because I already have my invite, I'm not thinking competitively at all. I haven't thought about the competitive scene since September of 2020 when I went to Minnesota. And you know what? It's been very enjoyable not having to think about that. All I have to do is think of cards at their face value. Obviously, I like putting together those like top 10 lists, and all the lists we've been putting together on Deepwood. Still have to put together that second community created card thing. Don't worry, it's coming.
So to say, Toby's going to say something.
I know Toby's going to say something. He's going to be right there.
Toby, say it.
There you go. Toby channeled and kicked him out of the chat. Paul, what were you bringing up there?
Well, yeah, sorry. I thought you were done, Mike, but I just so agree with the idea that the online GP culture has just changed the game fundamentally.
Yeah.
When I think of like traveling to Collinsville to play in a tournament, like I'm investing a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of playtesting time, but then also a lot of money to go and do this thing. And if I can just say, turn on my webcam, pay $20, and I've playtested a little bit and like said, okay, I think this is the decent deck. Like the pressure is gone to do well, right? Because like I want to go to a GP and I want to like get into the top 8 for sure. If I'm going to be driving down to Collinsville with Jeremy and a bunch of other folks and sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag and doing all those other things, right?
One time, Paul. One time.
My
time.
camera's not on, by the way. I don't think.
We can see you.
Oh, I don't see it on my Discord.
Well, we can see you.
Oh, okay. Just
Tommy, don't worry, I'm here in spirit.
Oh, here in spirit. Okay.
Close your eyes. I'll be there.
I like the bringing down of GPs to almost like a locals level.
Yeah.
With more people and, a little bit extra money, but like your mailed promos. Like that's just a completely different mindset as to like how one enters the play space. And I think that makes a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
Like honestly, GPs are a little intimidating.
Oh yeah.
If you're not used to it.
Yes. As someone who has also grinded the competitive season to the point of like I've qualified a couple of times, but like to get there, like the grind and the stress of it, like woof, like stressful times. And I think that now you're absolutely right that it's so much more chill, but it also like has also chilled out the competitive players too, because I think like for the reasons you're talking about of like they don't have to invest as much money, they can feel confident in their skills. Like if you look at Force of Will events, we have players who come out of the woodwork and get into top 8s, right? That absolutely happens. Yeah, Mike is a good example of this. But like, you know, there's a traditional good players do well in Force of Will. That's kind of a thing. But I also don't really think the community cares about that either. There was a time in Force of Will's history where players complained that the same players kept topping. Force of Will as a whole right now,
that's true.
I don't think care because of the reasons that you're talking about, where there's not as much of an investment. It used to be, oh crap, did you hear that X, Y, and Z person is going to be at this GP? Like stress out. It's gone. It's gone because of the online GPs. And also just the way people are just enjoying the game. Because an invite to Worlds is fun, is great, is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Going to Worlds has been one of the best experiences of my life, right? But playing in a GP that I paid $30 for, to sit in my house in pajamas with other people just having a good time.
You don't even have to be wearing clothes.
I mean, please wear clothes. To get
Oh,
100.
geez, my cards are on the table. Look.
to get $120 worth of promos, like you've net positived before you even sat down for round one. But I also think that, you know, even going forward from this, one, I don't think online GPs will ever go away. Even if we go back to in-person GPs, I think that we will also see online. In fact, I will be recommending that to the company. Hello, Mystic Crusader. Welcome from Tigard, Oregon. Happy to have you here. But like, I think that what we're seeing is, I think even the people who show up to GPs in person will still be carrying that same attitude. Of just like having a good time. Because I think the community has seen, and the people who have watched the community have seen, that we can have this kind of environment. And I think seeing that it's possible is driving people to make it happen more consistently. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I think so. Like, we've seen that we can have a competitive... That's fair. We've seen that we can have a casual, competitive, enjoyable community. And now that we've seen it, I think players are doing what they can to maintain that. Because they like it way more than the super stressful competitive environment that used to exist or exist in other games. Tommy, would you agree? You have been a player who has approached, from my experience with you, have approached events with a pure enjoyment factor, as well as approached other events with a very competitive mindset. So I would be interested to hear your take on this.
I mean, for me, when I do these when we had in-person tournaments, and me and my buddies, we had these road trips to Minnesota, to Collinsville. Like, we went to the event to play, but my ultimate goal was to like win top 8. Like, you don't get me wrong, but like that wasn't like the first thing that we were all going for. We were just going to like, we're not out here in Chicago. Like, we're going somewhere else. We're here to play. We're here to meet everybody, like Franklin or Mike or anybody that we know, and to just make new friends. That's first and foremost. And I think the sentiment, yeah, I think the sentiment carried through even with online GPs and how it is now. I think that the community itself has created naturally through weeding out other select people, and just the lack of all the websites publishing like, this is what you need, this is what you have to do, and like all the big Force of Will teams are like gone. There used to be like 5 or 6 different teams at like Collinsville.
Yeah,
like we're trying to go for like number 1, but now there's like 1, 2, and it's only a couple people. We're not really like head first into like we gotta win. It's more of like, all right, we're gonna try, and if we don't try, whatever, we'll just go to the next one, you know.
yeah.
Yep.
So my sentiments carried over with everything you guys pretty much said. And speaking of at home, I think it's a lot nicer because there's no pressure. You don't lose anything, because if I drive, for me, like 6-7 hours to Collinsville, and I'm having a bad time for whatever reason, I'm stuck there, and I have to drive 7 hours back feeling like garbage because I sat there and wasted my time.
Sure.
Or here, it's like, if I'm not having a great time, or if something came up, or if I have an emergency, you'll be like, all right, well, I'm gonna go do something else, or I'm gonna watch Netflix, or I gotta go. Like it's like a no commitment. Nothing's like holding us to like keep doing this. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest factor of being at home is you're not restricted to go out here and waste your time and do this.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that even after the pandemic, we see like this kind of. I would love to see a focus on like blended not formats, blended tournament seasons where we have some GPs that
Yeah.
are, like you go out and do it, and some GPs are in there, and obviously the online GPs will probably end up handing out like unpaid invites. But like, what does that cost the company?
Well,
Nothing.
maybe.
Sorry, table space. It's like it cost them like two. Too money.
Yeah, so like I agree with you, and I also think that if we have that blended season, I think not that the community doesn't already do this, but I think even more so with the type of players that are coming into the community and the experience that they're having, I think players nowadays at in-person events are going to be in like creating a space that's even less stressful than it's been in the past. Because I think the community, like, this is what I talk about when I say like now that we've seen it, we know we can do it. I think the player base themselves is naturally responding to things that in the community in terms of community health or community engagement that they don't like, and they're calling it out proactively in a healthy way. And I think that that's going to transcribe itself into a GP season too, in person. There's been this going back to again being one of the last community pillars, right? The number of times that I have ranted and raged behind closed doors to people like Mike or Paul about trying to deal with community drama in a healthy way or anything else like that, and feeling so alone in that is a lot. I have not legitimately ranted about community drama or community worries without being also able to be like, yeah, but it's really okay in like a year and a half. And the community, because the community itself is becoming this, like, I think of the scene of the, from, it's so stupid, but like from Infinity War, where he's like, we don't do that here. Because I think the community is approaching, I think the community is doing that. I think the community is going like, we don't do that here. Like, people talking about Lycion and going nuts, and people are like, yeah, but I'm having a really good time with my Wolfgang deck. Or like, whatever, I
don't think I've read a single Lycion combo. Like, I'm just leaving my head out of it, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like in the old days, that kind of discussion would have dominated the online community.
Yeah.
And would have sparked
That's so true.
And would have sparked frustration and anger at it being a thing. Nowadays, the community just ignores it or doesn't talk about it, not from we want to pretend it doesn't exist, but from yeah, we know that exists, we don't really care because we're having fun over here. And
yeah, we'll just don't play it.
Yeah, we're just not gonna do it.
Nobody's actually screaming, ban Lycion, ban this. Like, before it'd be like, ban every other card in your deck. Now it's like, do we really have a ban-worthy card that people are complaining about?
And I think that there's a difference to say that people can express frustration, because we have seen, if the conversation is brought up, people are expressing frustration. But the thing is, those discussions are not at the forefront of what people are talking about. And also not what the community is focusing on in its general tone of discourse and approach to the game, which is that big shift that I'm talking about. Competitive discussion happens. It is not the defining trait of the current, like, community voice. And that to me gives me a lot of hope for the future of the game, because I think we can all agree that while there are things that can be made better about the amount of product being printed, because I think they're still working on that, I think we can all agree that it's very clear that print runs are steadily increasing and continuing to sell very well. right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can all
Yeah.
also agree that the community itself is growing, if slow. So if we have print runs that are increasing and selling, a community that is growing, however slow, but is growing, then, like, from a business sense, there is no reason to ever stop. Right? But then it becomes,
Unless you fear money. Unless you like have a
yeah, unless I just don't want
crippling
money
fear.
anymore, right?
Right. Yeah.
But then, so then you have to look at it from a community mindset, right? It's like, what is the community's environment? And when you have the business side being safe and the community side being just more driven by enjoyment, you have a recipe for overall loyalty and longevity to a game. And
Yeah.
I, as someone who's been here from the beginning and seen so many other content producers and community pillars rise and fall, I am so relieved and I am just at peace. And I love it.
You kind of said it earlier, though. Like you said, like right around when Alice Origins released, we saw a big change. I wonder if that's because we got a new company. Like, it seems like the philosophy of the new company, I Spy, is to do things that make sense money-wise, like reprinting old cards in a way that makes sense for the metagame. It's part of the R&D. They're doing a much better job ever since Jeff talked to them on multiple occasions way back in Nuval Cluster and helped them design that set. Like, there was a big change, not just with the company, but sort of like the mindset and the philosophy of the company when it switched over. And I don't know. I mean, like, we just got a new mini product that did super well and wasn't just a bunch of crappy cards. Like, almost all of these cards are good, if not all of them.
Yeah, in some kind of context.
Mhm.
By the way, Tigris is
Wait,
bonkers in the cube. Eldorado.
yeah, I know.
Friggin'
I know.
Mystic, does anyone know of
but
any players or
community-
places in the Portland, Oregon area? I actually do know maybe some players near Portland that I can direct you towards. So get in our Discord and we'll talk about it.
We just have to have a one-on-one with the community really quick and say, did you buy the mini set? Did you? We told you to. Did you buy it? Because we might get another one.
I bought it.
A whole case.
Whole case here too.
Good. Good job.
I got 4 of them, and I was so close to filling out the playset. I got the 5 Magna, 3 Prisia.
Magnus,
You bought 4 cases or 4 boxes?
4 boxes.
maxlevelgaming.com still has boxes available at 50. Because that's already gone up in price. So
Mhm.
Oh, that's good. Good job. Proud of you.
I'm sorry for
I'm your dad.
constantly mistaking Eldorado for Tigris, but I see Panda, I see Tigris. That's what happened.
Listen, dude, the OG.
El Dorado.
Eldorado.
Now I've been reminded. Stars. Can't do it.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today. I tell you what, man. Paul regretted flashing back a freaking Pearl Shrine to my Eldorado to my hand when I
Yeah,
already
it was-
had 5 crystals. I was like, this is a mistake letting me
Tetris.
recast this.
Oh.
Nerdy derps. Okay, great. Also
yeah.
get plugged into our Discord server so we can start pushing people that way.
Heaps.
So what do you
See,
think?
Look at all you.
Look at this. This is great. What do you say now that we're at 28 people? You guys even do a little giveaway? You want to do a giveaway?
I'm down.
I'm down for a giveaway. So here's the way this works. I'm going to give you a question. And it is very simple. It's very simple.
What color is Eldorado's underwear?
No.
Pink.
It's black and
Shit.
white.
It's
Easy answer. Anyway.
I would have said pink because it contrasts so well against the white and the black, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have a sense of style.
no. The question is, what is your favorite Rebirth of Legend card? And why is it Perseus Big Show? Just kidding. What is your favorite? What is your favorite Rebirth of
Where's
Legend
the
card?
lie, though?
I'm going to give you until 9:50, 7 minutes, because we're gonna keep talking. Until 9:50 to give me your answer in the chat, and I will type those all in. And at 9:50, we're gonna draw 2 winners to get some of these. So, while I type names,
is the unofficial question now? What is the color of Eldorado's underwear?
No, the question is, what is your favorite Rebirth of Legend card?
It's like everyone's spamming in the chat.
White.
Someone said pearl underwear.
Yeah, dude. That's bougie.
Oh my god. Rustin, 10 out of 10, buddy. 10 out of 10.
So yeah, I just like talking about future, like I think what are some other things that I want to talk about in terms of like the view of the future is I think that it's changing how the overall discussion about new sets has been changed in terms of when looking at cards. Because I think from this past spoiler season, we're always going to have one on the Force of Will main page. We're always going to have naysayers who, for some reason, still follow the Force of Will main page and talk about how busted the game is, yada, yada, yada. But the general discourse on, and I'll be interested to know if you guys have seen this too, or if you think maybe I'm just completely wrong, is that players in general are talking more about their overall excitement for the new cards just as a card. Than talking about cards purely from their competitive impact during spoiler season. And that's also been a really interesting change for me. So while I type, share your guys' agreement or disagreement or kind of maybe why you think that is, while I fill this out.
I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. I think both are actually the same answer, and I can elaborate here in a second.
Yeah, go for it.
But like, use Rebirth of Legend. Like, we're seeing all these new cards, and almost immediately everybody's like, theory crafting like the dumb, janky stuff. But then like the exact same players are going out and be like, all right, well, I'll use Lumi as an example. This card's really good against a Robos. It might not stop it, but it's gonna slow it down. And it's not. We're not saying like one is necessarily prevalent over the other, but it's like a unified discussion by both types of players. So I don't think there's a difference. I think it's all synonymous.
Sure.
That's cool.
I think it's true. I think I would say, I mean, not to toot our own horn, but I think it's because we're one of the only Forceful podcasts on YouTube, and we're some of the people who are doing some of the best quality content most often, and often that content is just, hey, welcome to the game. Hope you enjoy it. Here, have some fun. Found Wednesdays have been like really like chill hangout times. Very much the Beard Brothers, of course, as well.
Banging.
And
banging.
Until Paul
I don't
forgets
have-
to move his mic closer.
I don't have a beard.
Yeah, exactly. Until I forget to move my mic closer.
Until Paul forgets to do what?
I mean, we do a really good job here on Ruler School, I think, of just making the game what it is and making it fun for folks. And we definitely talk competition, and we like figuring out combos and like the most optimal way to play the game, but it's only because we enjoy the game. It's not because we want to be like big brain awesome celebrity boys. We just want people to enjoy the game and see the game grow, which
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's always been the goal of Ruler School, has been to, even when we were just DMO073 Gaming, before the rebrand, it's always been about the game. It's always been about enjoying the game, which is part of what drove us to shift to doing content over competitive. Because I think that there was an element of when I was doing the competitive grinds, that I think naturally seeped into itself into the content. And then also changed how I was approaching the game, and I think I felt the stress. Like, I felt the competitive stress, but when I was thinking about FOW constantly, from any perspective. And I think we had a shift for Ruler School to do content. When we shifted to full-time content, I think we really brought back the idea of what you said, like, it's about the game. And I think that while, yes, there are players who really want the competitive content, and I get that 100%, which is why we try to like tease that in terms of talking about things, or like during FOW Wednesday talking about specific combos that we're not playing, or like explaining things. I think our content has shifted and kind of been focused on the fact that like competitive players are 10%. Like the hyper competitive environment is 10% of this game.
Maximum.
Mm-hmm.
And so to that end, it's been there's been a fight, and Paul can attest to this in terms of like our private conversations. If there have been times where Ruler School, the content that we were trying to put out, felt like we were fighting against a tide of negativity or toxicity as the people focused on the casual play because the competitive voice was so loud. And I think I've enjoyed the game so much more, and things have been so much more peaceful, and content has been so much more enjoyable to do because I don't have that fight anymore. I don't feel like we have to fight that anymore. But I also don't think that it's gone away. I don't think the competitive voice has gone away. I think the competitive voice has mellowed and matured to be more realistic about what it is and what it can be. And that overall makes it way more healthy, which makes it a lot easier to do our job. No longer fighting wars. We're just talking about a game we like.
Yeah, there's like very few skirmishes nowadays, and that's been really refreshing. And I would also say, FOW has gotten to the point where I'm like, oh wow, I can enjoy these other games that I don't like to play because of the toxicity and their competitive formats and just the way people discuss that card game. And I can still enjoy that card game. Like, spoilers, I mean, I'm not ever going to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever again because things haven't changed enough, but I can at least value the IP. I can like... It's a
play
difference
Duel
between
Links
Mgold 40's
constantly.
content. I'm playing Duel Links right now. But like, I can enjoy the content of like an AFS anime, which is just a guy doing a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh trivia and just saying like, how did you think about this happening in the anime, or this card that just came out, as opposed to Mgold 40, who's like, we got to do all these combos or else we can't play the game and we need to fix it. Those feel like very different kinds of content creation for very different audiences, and I think we're trying to steer toward like the casual, have fun, it's a card game, welcome to card games in general.
Yeah.
And this is your entryway.
Logan, to your point, living in Minnesota, I feel like I'm very biased towards competitive play over casual play. One, you're at Games and Geek, so you're probably at the most like you're like at the most concentrated competitive like world. But I get that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's what I'm saying, where like the competitive voice, the competitive players, and how they talk about it and how their voice reaches the community has matured and gotten softer. Like, they speak softer and with less authority and judgment, and more just talking about the game at a competitive level with maturity. And so I think that kind of competitive conversation is good to have, because I think that for players who want that drive, having that environment to be able to step into and talk about it and engage in is rewarding, is helpful, is healthy. They like it. It's when that devolves and infects and seeps into the rest of the community when it's not wanted, where we get some problems. And I think that we have slid away from that toxicity over the past year and a half in a very good way. More that you don't get to see it. Yeah, I absolutely can 100% understand that you do not have time to slow down playing at Games and Geek.
Weekly tournaments.
On a weekly tournament.
That's the rise and grind.
That's
right
the
there.
rise and grind format for sure. Let's give away some stuff.
Yeah.
I got two things to give
Three
away
things.
here. I got 2 things to give away. Our first winner. Can I get a drum roll, please? Thank you. Our first winner is Mega Drybone.
Yay.
Welcome. You are going to get one of each of the Uber ones. And our second winner is
So it's like a dry bone, but larger.
Cole
Okay.
Souders.
Hey.
Congratulations to both of you. I'm going to put this email in the chat. It is rulerschoolcontent@gmail.com. rulerschoolcontent@gmail.com. Go ahead and send me that you are the winner and your YouTube username as well as your address, and we will get you each a set of these lovely Uber limit break tokens, one of each of the 6 sent to you guys, courtesy of Tommy Rourke. Thanks for Tommy Rourke for making them for the channel and for giving us some to give away. So
I'm actually in the process of making more. Obviously not with the Ruler School branding.
yeah.
I'm doing a custom bag, so it's taking a little bit. So if you guys would like some, you could just find me in any of the Discords. I'm Tommy Rourke, or in the Facebook group, and message me, and I'll be more than happy to get
He's
you a
also Tommy
pre-order
Rourke
and
on
get them.
Facebook groups.
Yeah, he's
Thanks.
also Tommy Rourke on Facebook groups.
Yeah,
So I do
so
want
just
to
message me, and I will get them to you as quick as I can.
hit a couple questions that came up in the chat real quick as we close
Sure.
things out. Dana, where are you? Dana G, how would you go about
Dana G.
trying to bring the game back to an area in Canada that used to have a group pre-Rhea cluster? First off, it's 3 steps. 1, in terms of content, there are 3 videos that I think are very, very helpful. 1, it's our Magic, if it's a Magic community, it's our Magic players are going in on Force of Will should you video. That's a very easy kind of like tease to kind of maybe get them interested again or see that other people are doing it. 2, our how to start playing Force of Will in 2021 video gives you a very good synopsis of everything that's going on, what products to buy, and how to get back into the game, as well as access to the different online communities for right now, which is great. 3, there's another video that is the how to become an official store / get product, which you can share with a store that you're working with. And 4, check out the Force of Will Wednesdays, the Foul Wednesday streams, because we very much just showcase and show off how fun this game is right now. So those are good content pieces to share. Secondly,
And if you're in Canada, just shove the cards into like a little thing of poutine. Eventually, somebody will pick it out, and maybe they'll start playing the card. Make sure it's sleeved. Though. You don't
yeah,
want to put
okay,
it on
so
it.
that feels real. Okay, Ruler School does not condone Mike's judgmental and possibly very stereotypical statement. Asterisk. Secondly is if you have a store, just talk with them about the idea of hosting a demo day. There's a very easy way to advertise and show off and get people interested in the game. And then third, just like talk to people yourself in your community or online communities that you're a part of and saying like, hey, this is a game I want to get started. Check these video pieces out. Would you be interested in maybe trying to get back into it again? Talk about how there's increased growth. Like, talk about the game in a positive light, but also an inquisitive light, and you can get players to come in. It is a bit of work, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly something that you can do. I hope that helps. Feel free to get connected to our Ruler School Discord if you have more questions. We always try to answer those as best we can. Ninja Monkey, hello! Thanks for being here. Is it worth getting into the game at this point if you like trying to play competitive? Absolutely. There is a competitive scene. There's literally a tournament happening in 3 weeks that is an online tournament with a paid invite to Japan on the line for first place. You can check the link down in the description below to get signed up for it. It's $35. It's over webcam via Discord, and you get $120 worth of promos just for showing up. So value. And also, again, $1,000 in cash on the line for top 8 to split, as well as other prize cards, and again, paid invites to Japan. So the competitive circuit is certainly alive and well, has good prizes for you, well worth your time to get into the game.
June's is a paid invite or unpaid invite?
This is a paid invite for sure.
Ooh, value.
Good.
Go for it.
Adam Rassett, good place to buy Force of Will singles online other than TCG players. ccgprime.com. That's CCG. That's a bad G.
CCG.
Yes, ccgprime.com has singles even up the way to the most recent set. I think they are close to over 100,000 singles in their stock now.
Minimum.
Very well stocked.
Woo.
We are all bad players, so always a good time to jump in. Not wrong.
If I can top in the tournament, it's a perfect time to jump in.
So,
yeah. Hell yeah, Rustin.
Yeah, for sure.
I already took off work for it too, so
Yeah, it's gonna be good, and we're gonna be streaming it. So if you can't, so that's the other thing too, is if you can't get in for this June GP, you can tune in right here because we are going to be streaming the webcam GP in June right here on Ruler School. So if you want to see what the competitive scene is like, or get interested, or get involved, you can do it here. Oh, one thing to note. GPs specifically, obviously during regular streams and anything else like that, Fat Wednesdays, the chat is completely open to everybody. During a GP stream, if you want to get involved in the chat, you have to be a member on the channel. You can still watch the VOD, you can still watch the Twitch, the stream live. If you want to engage with us and ask questions and stuff, you have to be a member. As you can see, we are 3 members away from getting that new mini Violet emote. I would love to be able to unlock that before the GP stream. It's essentially the same as a Twitch subscription. You can do it for as low as $2 a month, and it goes to financially support the channel. Get all kinds of perks, including all of these beautiful emotes that people have been spamming. But regardless, the content will always be available for you to watch, and our Discord is always available for you to get plugged into. Facebook Marketplace is also a place that you can do, or the global Force of Will Global Marketplace Facebook page is also a very good place to go to get singles as well.
Both good. Yeah.
CCG Prime, as far as I know, does send to Canada, although you have to pay extras for shipping. Setups. Rustin WW has a wonderful video on his YouTube channel to how to get set up to play on webcam for those events, so go ahead and check that out too. Is there an online version of the game? The closest we have is untap.in, which is a website. It is a manually operated website. You can also use Lackey CCG, which is a program. There's a plugin for Force of Will, also a manual program in terms of you have to know where to move things. The game, unfortunately, does not have an automatic simulator like Magic Arena or anything else like that. It's a lot of stuff. These are great questions, though. They're great questions. Thank you all so much for asking them, and glad to have you here. If you're coming to us from TikTok, oh, I will say this. So we have that giveaway we just did. Bam. Just did that. We have the giveaway of the Neat card once we hit 100 members, which we will do a post about how to get the Neat card when we hit 100 members.
Jeremy, show them the Neat card.
It's buried in stuff for Foul Wednesday. I'll show it on.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
Is Paul about to do something
neat? The third thing is, if you haven't already, go download TikTok and look up Ruler School TCG on TikTok, because if you join as a follower of us on TikTok, when we hit 200 followers, we are going to be giving away, there's the Neat card, we are going to be giving away an artist-signed Faria ruler card, signed by the artist herself at Worlds in 2019 to one of our TikTok followers once we hit 200. I'm currently doing a series on TikTok all about the rulers from throughout Force of Will's history. We're doing a set a day. In terms of starting after today, we'll be doing a set per day of TikToks about specific rulers. So if you're looking to learn about Force of Will's history that way, give us a follow. And yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming on and a lot of giveaways going on. And of course, be sure to make yourself getting plus on our Discord. I do need to yell at Logan because Logan was a member for a while, but now isn't.
Logan.
Heretic.
Heresy.
Logan.
Do it.
Neat.
Anywho,
contribute to the Neat. Join us.
That
Join
being
us for the
said,
scoop.
30 people joined us tonight for office hours. Thank you all so much, new and old players. Regardless, we're glad you were here. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we will see you on Wednesday for Foul Wednesday, joined by the Bardiest Bard from TikTok, because Paul is off this week. And we'll be back next week to talk more about Force of Will. So until next time, this has been myself, Evo73, and I've been joined, as always, by Paul Reisman.
Neat.
Mike Rance.
Teen.
And Tommy Rourke.
Howdy.
Quick, Ninja Monkey. If you can't download it, Untapped.in is a website. It's browser based. Logan, thank you for coming back as
Logan.
a member. So
Hey,
2 more to go.
Logan,
It canceled.
welcome to
Yeah.
the amoeba.
Rippy.
2 more to go. Hopefully we can get that on Foul Wednesday. And until next time, this is all of us saying class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.